Lesson 23, the philosophy of the veil in Islam. Before starting to talk about the veil, let's take a quick look at marriage in our human society and, on the other hand, adultery. One, marriage is the originator of the first social roles because it is the founder of the family, and it is, as we know, the first link in the chains of the greater community. It is also a device for setting out a beautiful life immersed in affection and intimacy. That bringing up boys and girls in a family, milieu imbibes them with fine feelings from their first days of life and provides them the friendly feelings that prepare them for a future life filled with mercy and clemency. If there had been no marriage, the human race would have been extinguished a very long time ago. The perpetuation of life and its continuity on this earth require prosperity and the continuance of marriage. To adultery, it is a very retroactive act. It is the driver of corruption in the community, the propagator of chaos, and is lethal to pregnancy. When a young man rushes at whoredom, he catches an axe in his both hands in order to destroy the pillars of the nation. Suppose that the young man hooked a girl in this errant way. He will spend a long time with her, but he will be bored of her when he sees her beauty withering in the hands of the years. He will forsake her for another woman. He will leave her at the door of aging, liable to misery and poverty. Even if she could find a job to keep her at subsistence level, what about her fate if she became ailing for work? How hard life is, how her pains are aching in deprivation of a husband and children. The social results of adultery. If we want to comment on the single young man who will get used to the way of adultery in his future, we shall find the desertion of marital life so as to continue to abandon the marriage, all his life going on along this despicable way, and he will not cherish a family life or participate in reviving the community. He will be liable to the diseases arising from this life. He is no more than destroying acts of the happiness of every young woman with whom he makes a legal relation. When youth is gone and old age comes, this frivolous man will not find a supporting son beside him, and not even a beloved relative. Then sorrows will pervade him, and misery will burn him in the dark evening of his life. Disaffection and coolness. If he marries a pretty girl when his freshness begins slanting towards wilting, after a long time spent in the arms of prostitutes, no wonder he seeks a good-looking woman, but this tender woman he chose, being in her prime of youth, will not be happy in his company after he has passed a long course of his life. A charming, beautiful wife will not like to live with the husband in the evening of his life. Her eyes will look for men of better health who are younger than him, and all of a sudden she will walk into adultery to bring forth illegal children for her legal husband. If this father dies, legal brothers will share the inheritance with their legal brothers from the mother's side. Thus corruption will prevail in this miserable shattered house. If that young wife could restrain the caprice of her sexual desire and she forbore herself and did not follow the road to prostitution, her aspirations will remain suppressed and her spirit covered in sorrows. Suffice it to say about the ruination that befalls the children of that family, due to the fragile sentimental relationship between the father and the mother, they will inherit feeble formation, which I shall elucidate after a while. Thus life will never be serene for the adulterer and the adulteress, even if they enter a legal marital life. Ennui and boredom will spread over a life covered with sorrows, and their cauterized hearts will have been spoiled by sin and smeared by crime. This is the destiny of adultery. Misery. It is the cause of misery for both sexes in their future life. It is the attenuation and annihilation of the offspring, the extirpator of virtues from the horizons of life, and the eraser of happiness from the pages of life too. Any aggression on honor is accompanied with an aggression which covers all other social affairs. How wide the difference is between the results of marital life and the life of adultery and sin. In the former, virtues thrive and fine feelings grow, and the atmosphere is saturated with harmony and sympathy. On the latter, the instincts are in control, and man is degraded to the level of an animal. The instincts will dispel the upper humane affections, and there will be a gloomy future, void of the sympathy of relatives and the help of progeny. The unveiling and how it affects the society. What has been reported by actual state of life. First, the sexual instinct is inborn in every living creature, and it is liable to be excited on viewing beauty and the charm of the body. As long as man eats and drinks, the material of life from which he was created originates in his body. It will remain there and will come out when it is aroused by charm and beauty. Second, the morals that grew and integrated cannot destroy the sexual instinct forces, but they can direct them towards good. Moreover, complete morals cannot change the present psychic laws. These remarks will be clear when tackling the subject of the veiling and the unveiling. The unveiling leads to the deterioration of the community in the direction of vice. It contains a breakup of the ties of family life. It is the cause of weakness of progeny formation and the sewer of alienation, dissension, and severity in the home and for its youth. Finally, unveiling eliminates satisfaction from the spirits of the people, and it evokes their discontent, and under the shadows of discontent, nothing grows save human misery and social suffering. The explanation and the elucidation. First, let us first discuss the effects of unveiling on the spirit of the single young man and on the spirit of the single young woman. Whatsoever is said about supporting the unveiling from the embellishments of speech, the real facts refute this. They say that if the morals are integrated and become strong in the two sexes, then the unveiling will not cause deterioration and breakup. I say even if the morals grew and integrated, they cannot destroy the sexual pendency. Whenever beautiful faces loom at the thirsty young man and tender voices talk to him, he cannot but tend towards pin-up girls in the grip of the infatuation of beauty. This is the first step towards adultery, and you can say the same thing about the thirsty girl. She will slip herself to your young friend, and if we do not want to take into consideration the types of vices that reality offers to us as a result of these first social connections, it is enough to say that these connections develop anxiety and arouse sleeplessness. So how could youth continue in building up the future and remain faithful to work and to study after the feelings become vivid with the spectrum of sexual life, and the barrages are set up, and the valve of instinct is called upon to commit sin? In fact, instinct is blind and it does not differentiate between good and evil, and even if thought can overcome it after it has been awakened by the sight of the pinups and it is shackled in cuffs, that is sheer suppression, which is more evil and calamitous, two struggling forces in the square of the spirit, the force of the raging crazy instinct and the force of conscious distinguishing thought. If the conscious force overcame the other, the spirit would enter the pain of depression and instinct would stay in anger until it found feeding. But if the first force overcame the second, that would be the worst. A community constricted with unveiling will never know the way of the reassurance of the hearts of its youth, because the factors of excitation will be active and the sexual motive will be agitated. It is seen in those milieus where unveiling and celibacy prevail that all conversation for pleasure is linked with the milestones of sexual communication or something similar. Because these kinds of jokes become so instinctive, this is to satiate the instinctive thirst which has been inflamed by the catastrophe of unveiling. Can anyone believe that the godly hand that crowded this vast universe with the wonders of creation and the grandeur of formation formed these spirits in a condition of fearful rottenness and sheer decline? Nay, the hand formed these spirits pure and stainless, but the ways in which they behave have spoiled them. Unveiling exposes both sexes to the charm of the visual, and the visual leads to talk sown with expressions of endearment and flirtation, and after that to the deprived thirst which leads to drinking from the basins of meanness and harlotry. The effect of unveiling on the class of married people, the bonds that tie the hearts of men to their wives begin to loosen little by little in a community where its women are unveiled. The married man, although he is satiated sexually, will look at women that are far better than his wife in shapeliness and beauty. If his character is strong enough to keep himself from deviation, it does not prevent him from desiring and lamenting. He will wish for a wife like the one he is looking at, in her grace and her beauty. The wish will increase with the passing of days, and with more meetings with beautifully unveiled women. These wishes will change into lamentations inside himself, and he will become resentful because of his bad luck. The same thing can be said about his wife who was seen by men and who saw men. Surely she will meet a man that possesses some factors that put him above her husband in superiority and many other traits. She'll take the first step and the second step, for example, in wishing and lamenting. Now let us concentrate on this family and see what will follow. Coolness of passion between them will result, for the heart of each one is attached to someone else other than their companion. He or she will not see in his or her companion anything save a person with whom he or she will unfortunately spend the rest of their life. In this world there are many husbands who are better than this husband, and there are many wives who are more beautiful than this woman. This is a fixed idea that will be concentrated in the minds of the spouses in the community of the unveiling, and it will surely weaken the sexual marital bonds between them. Practical scientific researchers show that the coolness between the man and his wife is reflected in sexual copulation in its worst form, because the loss of the flaming affection between the couple leads to the weakness of their offspring's tender physiological formation. When affection is activated and strong, it will produce a lot of good at the time of the instinctive sexual intercourse. It has the most effect in producing children of sound bodies and normal formation, and vice versa. Most ailments that are contracted to children are usually inherited because of estrangement concentrated in the spirits of their parents when they meet in a marital approach. It can be added that the waning of affection from the atmosphere of the house makes the children live in a medium arid of affection. This will be reflected in their fresh spirits, and it will implant the seeds of hardness in their hearts while they are at the doorstep of life and make them stamp on it because of their grudge. Finally, unveiling scatters consent from the spirits of people, as I said, and it creates resentment in their hearts regarding their ill luck in life. It is said that happiness can never be realized in a certain community unless the element of consent is fulfilled among the individuals of that community, because the lamenter for ill luck is wretched even if he wallows in luxury. Nothing can evoke happiness in life as consent does. In the Holy Quran, there is not one verse that orders the women to unveil their faces. But on the contrary, the order has been issued by Allah the Almighty to cover all the body and the face completely. Now let us listen to the word of God, and He is the most omniscient of the laws of obedient men and the ways for their good, and He is loving and merciful towards them. He orders the veil to be worn and shows its wisdom to the ladies of the messenger, who are the examples for the Muslim women to follow. God said, and when ye ask His ladies for anything ye want, ask them from behind a screen. That makes for greater purity for your hearts and for theirs. The Holy Quran, Fortress 33, Al-Azab, the Combined Claims, verse 53, says there is unveiling of the face as they claim so. Where is the screen? The definition of the veil in language and legislation. In language, the veil is to curtain vision completely or to lose sight. This fortress explains the veil, and it does not accept it unless it is used to screen all the beauties of the woman, the container that fills the heart with desire and contaminates it by the germ of libido, and keeps from the woman only her speech from behind a curtain. God said, O consorts of the Prophet, ye are not like any of the other women. If ye achieved all life, being protected against ill desires, be not too complacent of speech, lest one in whose heart is disease should be moved with desire. The Holy Quran, Fortress 33, Al-Azab, the Combined Claims, verse 32. Speech, despite the covering veil and the hindrance in seeing the beautiful face, must be very serious and resolute, and tenderness must never come through it in dialect or fineness of tone or statement, and there must be no extremity in subject. God has ordered women to stay at home, where their valuable productive work lies in bringing up boys and girls and in preparing the future generation to be sound in body and mind. But if they were obliged to go out, they must be refined by following jurisprudence for safeguarding themselves for the public character and for the safety of the hearts of all people. God said, and stay in your houses and make not a dazzling display like that of the former times of ignorance. The Holy Quran, Fortress 33, Al-Azab, the Combined Plans, verse 33. I would like to mention the honorable ayah verse from Anir Fortress, which describes as the complete social system which was prescribed for the ideal life on earth. God said, say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty. That will make for greater purity for them, and Allah is well acquainted with all that they do. And say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty, that they should not display their beauty and ornaments except what must ordinarily appear thereof, that they should draw their veils over their body openings and not display their beauty except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their women, or the slaves whom their right hands possess, or male servants free of physical needs, or small children who have no sense of shame of sex, and that they should not strike their feet in order not to draw attention to their hidden ornaments. And O ye believers, turn ye altogether towards Allah in repentance, that ye may attain blissful consequences. The Holy Quran, Fortress 24, An-Nur Light, verse 30-31. From these two ayahs, we see the decencies of walking, which the woman considers while she is on the road. The veil al-Kamar is the screening cover. The word is taken from the root kamara, which means to cover, and the kamir and kamara wine, because wine covers consciousness and closes thought and covers it. For this reason, the ayah orders us to let down the veil that covers the face as far as the visible neck, from the upper opening of the garment and the upper area of the chest. All that is exaggeration for covering beauty, which the first calls adornment. Zina for beauty is the natural adornment of women